Cerebrum screens at FrightFest as part of the First Blood strand. It's a day's worth of programming that celebrates the best and brightest new voices in the genre.
Yeah.
How do you feel to be, one, selected for that program, and two, I believe you have the honor of opening this year's selection?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously, I moved here from Switzerland 10 years ago, trying to, follow my dream. So yeah, it sort of feels like finally, being recognized in some way. It's always very nice. And yeah, I think it's the first time we screen at FrightFest with any of our films. So I'm very excited, and I'm hoping that people will turn up and they'll like the film.
And like it's opening the Prince Charles for the Saturday. How, for people that are attending, what are they going to get? How are they going to be starting their day with your film?
Oh, they're gonna start with some real tension, just to start off the morning. Yeah, I think. I mean, it's hard to talk about the film, to kind of talk about the film without spoiling anything, because there's quite a few kind of big twists that it's hard to explain the story without including them. But I think definitely, there will be. I think it's a very tense film, and it's. I don't know if I can say it, but bit of a mindfuck. I'm hoping, and yeah, I think it's when I watch it, now that I've seen the whole process and I've seen, the edit without the sound, without the color grading, without any of those elements. And since we finished everything and with the music and everything, I felt it was a bit of a tour de force. Like it's quite intense. So I'm hoping that people will feel the same, because the last thing I want is people to leave the cinema and just forget about the film.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any chance of that happening. Because the script presents this like intricately designed puzzle. How difficult was it sort of working out when and where to share bits of information? Because obviously you don't want to reveal your intentions too soon on, but then you also don't want to leave the audience hanging on for too long and risk fatigue. So how did you go about constructing that?
Well, actually, with the script, we did probably 20 different drafts of the script, because also we were meant to shoot in 2020, just
right.
And then 2 weeks before with the shoot, the pandemic started, so we had to cancel. So I had another year to basically go over the script and make more changes, and that actually we changed a lot of things in the script there and tried to make it more mysterious. But then I would say that actually the biggest process with that was in the edit, because the structure of the film and a lot of things changed when it came to editing it, because we felt exactly like you said, that we were at times giving away too much and at times kind of boring the audience. So it was really fine balance to, like, we worked for 5 months on the edit with the editor and just keep trying different versions, move scenes around, see how it works, see what kind of feeling it conjures. And I mean, yeah, it was complicated, but we did it.
And your main character spends a big chunk of the film unable to speak, and Toby gives such an excellent performance. You kind of, although he's not able to speak, you know exactly what he's thinking and feeling at any one moment. How hard was he to find? Because there's a lot of work for a relatively young actor.
Yeah, again, we actually had a different cast for the first version of the script, and then when the pandemic happened and we had to delay everything, and I wrote the script and changed the characters quite a lot, and so I didn't feel like the cast we had would be fitting anymore. So we had to make the tough decision to recast, and we had seen actually Toby a few times before, just like not him directly, but just like his work and other things. And then when we then got back into producing again, we actually got a casting director on board, Hannah Marie Williams, and she was, you know, highly suggesting him and a couple of other actors. And as soon as we saw him, you could see so much behind his eyes. Like he was 21 or 22 at the time, and yet he felt way older in terms of like his soul, you know. So yeah, no, he was difficult to find, but we knew, you know, as soon as we saw him act the specific part that we sent him, suddenly we're like, you know, this is the character, this is our Will.
And he has, you know, he's got to go against Steve Oram, who, you know, has been working for many years and is quite well known within the genre scene. And I mean, he also gives an equally fantastic performance, which is a little, I guess it allows him to go a little crazier than perhaps people might be used to seeing him.
Yeah, I mean, I had a feeling that they would work together because they were both, you know, they're both such great actors, and you know, I had the hope that that would just kind of be enough. And then as soon as we went into rehearsal, just the chemistry between them, even as people, they really got along together, you know. And Steve was very excited to work with Toby because he'd seen him also in I May Destroy You and a couple of other things. So I think, yeah, it just kind of worked really well. Kind of the two of them worked really well together from the very first moment, really. And it felt like the relationship they created between the two characters, yeah, was just exactly what, you know, what I was looking for. And we worked on the script with them as well, and you know, we went through it because as a director, I quite like letting other people, especially, you know, the actors, when it comes to the characters, they're going to be the ones living it. You know, I'm watching from outside, but they're the ones living it. So yeah, just I think they really enjoyed that process, and we managed to work a lot on the characters in that sense, like all three together, even with Ramona, the mum. And yeah, I think it was just a very kind of natural process.
And the primary setting for the story is the house in which these characters live. If that, in one respect, constrains how much you can do visually. So how did you sort of get around that single location to make sure that the film is equally as dynamic to look at as it is to watch these actors play?
Yeah, that was one of the tricky parts. Also because, you know, it's quite a modern house, so it's all very grey, white. You know, not there's a lot of light as well, which is, you know, fairly unusual for horror films. Usually, you get a really dark, you know, wooden house, kind of, or especially English horror films. You know, the classic old English manor house. So I mean, yeah, I think we worked with a production designer a lot to try and make just the different spaces feel a little bit different, and not just like we're always watching on the same white wall. And we had to like remove TVs and switch things around precisely for that reason, because like depending on where you shot, there was just a big white wall behind, and that's not very interesting to look at. And same with the DOP, and that's also why I really wanted to embrace a more kind of crazy look for the basement scenes, because to create that contrast between the kind of perfect house upstairs and this creepy, crazy, nightmare fueled space, you know. And it's the same with, you know, the color of the moonlight, rather than going for white, which is what the moonlight is actually. We decided to go for different, you know, different shades of blue at different times, just to keep it interesting and keep things changing, because yeah, we didn't want to bore the audience on, you know, visually.
And you've also got like the really sort of vibrant greens of the garden as well, and the few scenes that sort of set outside as well. So there are
Yes.
these nice little pops of colour that catch the eye as well.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and there's also, we tried, the garden had these, I don't know what flowers they are, but these purple flowers around. So yeah, it was just kind of using what we're lucky enough to have there, because at the end of the shoot, those flowers were just dried up and gone. So it was like just perfect timing for that. And yeah, just kind of look around, and it was a big house. There was lots of space. The garden was massive as well, so we could just pick and choose the best places to shoot to keep it interesting.
And as intense as the story is and as atmospheric as the film looks, and that, I think to me one of the things that really stood out was the sound design. I mean, some of the sound elements in this film are almost painful to listen to. You know, are you going to be handing out some earplugs to the FrightFest audience? Because I mean, I was watching it with two cats in the room and they were freaking out. It was hurting me, so God knows what it was doing for them.
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, I'm generally quite big on sound design. I've always loved, when I started making shorts, I used to do my own sound design, and I think it just creates such a, you can really manipulate the audience, and it just creates such a different dimension to the film. You know, that yeah, that was always very important. In the script already, I had just lots of elements of sound design, which some people were surprised by, because it's not that usual. But especially in a horror film, if you don't think about sound design, you're gonna end up with something that might be not as good. And we were lucky enough that we worked with Alex Joseph, this amazing sound designer. He's worked on like some of the biggest films out there, and he worked with us on a short, so we asked him to do this. And yeah, I just sent him like my notes, my ideas, and then he came back with a first version, and like immediately we were like, okay, this is getting good now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just like the power of it. It just really immerses you.
Yeah, it's definitely very effective. And we're talking about Cerebrum in the run up to Fright Fest, a festival that celebrates all aspects of the dark heart of cinema. For you yourself as a viewer, what genre films excite you?
I mean, in the last, I would say 5-6 years, I bloody love horror films, any sort of like subgenre of that, the psychological horror, supernatural horror. I think it just gives you so much space to explore themes that at first you wouldn't necessarily explore otherwise, but also find really unique ways to do it. Because as a director, I felt so free to sort of do whatever I wanted, because I'm not constrained by the kind of realm of, I don't know, a drama, for example. And I'd love to make dramas. Don't get me wrong. I'm writing a few as well, but it's very freeing to do horror films, to make horror films. But the one genre I think that kind of kickstarted my filmmaking career is fantasy. When I watched Lord of the Rings, I was 10 or 11, and I was like, I want to do that. It's just building a world from scratch is just, I feel it's magical. It's just bringing to life those all those books that you read as a kid, and you're like, oh, I wonder if I wish a world like this existed, and then you can actually make it happen as well. Yeah.
And at the start, we touched upon what the Fright Fest audience can expect with this film, but why do you feel that they should seek this film out? What can you offer it?
Because I hope that it will make you think about, how can I say, think about yourself as a person. Because for me, this story in the end, it's about a young man who sort of needs to take control of his own life rather than letting other people decide for him, and so on. So I think from an emotional level, I hope that people will see that and, maybe have a little think about their life and getting them to do what they want to do. Because so many people in life, I mean, are forced or are doing things that, whether it's a job or relationship or whatever it is, that you don't want to do and that you're afraid to move away from because of so many reasons. So I think that's the main thing. And then if I can scare you a little bit and disgust you a little bit, that's it's even better.
Nice. And have you had a chance to sort of figure out what you might like to make next?
Yes, so I'm developing now a drama, kind of psychological drama TV series, which is going pretty well. And I'm writing another horror, but it's more supernatural horror. And in the meantime, I'm also developing a coming of age, absurd thriller, psychological horror. it's a wild film. So I'm developing these three, and I'm hoping that one of them takes off, within, I don't know, next year or so.
Cool. I'll keep my fingers crossed, and I wish you the best of luck at FrightFest.
Thank you very much.